that this is the area of research in which we are actually performing the experimental and numerical works. My PhD students are doing some simulations on CFDs using the ANSYS Fluent and some COMSOL, and they are making their own codes under the multi-phase flow, and we are targeting the cooling applications in order to have the proper understanding of flow physics and heat transfer in those application areas. Multi-phase flow is a very vast field wherein you can tune any of the states of the matter and you can have a multi-phase flow. So I thought of to start with the correct definition of multi-phase flow and then its interpretations and subsequent analysis tools available in order to get the complete and comprehensive idea about the multi-phase flow. So I will start my presentation. This is the outline of my presentation. I'll be starting my presentation with what exactly mean by multi-phase flow. Then why do you encounter the multi-phase flow? Why you need to study the multi-phase flow? How is it different from basic fluid mechanics? How do you model the two-phase flow? And some simulation results which we have achieved in our laboratories at SUNIT Surat. Now the first question, to reply towards the first question, that is what is multi-phase flow. So when you Google it for the definition of multi-phase flow, you will find very ubiquitous encyclopedia as Wikipedia. So I have taken this definition from the Wikipedia, which suggests that in fluid mechanics, multi-phase flow is a simultaneous flow. So one thing is very clear, that there must be a simultaneous flow. But of what? So it's a simultaneous flow of materials with different states or phases. It means that you may have the gas or liquid or solid which flows simultaneously. Or else the simultaneous flow of materials with the same phase, like liquid is there, so liquid is liquid, then gas, gas to gas, solid, solid to solid, but it should have a different chemical compositions. So like liquid systems such as oil droplets in water. So both are liquid phase, but chemical compositions are different. So if you allow this kind of flow simultaneously, will it be a correct definition of the multi-phase flow? This is my question. So the question arises over here is, just by mirroring the simultaneous flow of both the or different states or same state of different composition, can we really summarize the definition of multi-phase flow? So the answer is no. I should have a logic for that if I am saying it's no. So why? So in order to understand, I will be coming up with some chemical engineering applications, because mechanical engineering involves the heat transfer and fluid dynamics. Chemical engineering is also involving heat transfer and fluid dynamics, but the major thing is what mass transfer mechanism. So all the drug delivery and drug manufacturing systems falls under the category of chemical engineering. So in order to give the correct definition of multi-phase flow, I have come up with one of the examples of packed bed column. What is this packed bed column? So it is a cylindrical column which is packed with some materials. These materials are being packed in some haphazard manner or at random or a systematic manner. Why these are going to be packed? Because it increases the surface area, and by that way it is trying to involve or enhance the heat transfer mechanism and mass transfer mechanism. So with this understanding of packed bed column, I would like to elaborate more over it. The application of packed bed columns are what? Absorption, adsorption, distillation, extraction, then heterogeneous catalytic reactions, and it facilitates also to intimate mixing of fluids with mismatched densities, which largely due to the increased surface area for the contact. So as we see, the applications of this packed bed column, it involves the adsorption, absorption, distillation, extraction. So here we do have the simultaneous flow of the same phase or the different phases with different chemical compositions. But what is very important, which is lacking in the definition given by the Wikipedia. So the real definition of multi-phase flow is what? The multi-phase flow is an interacting flow. This is very, very important word. Multi-phase flow is an interacting flow of two or more phases. It may not be limited to two, but limitation is what you should have at least two phases or more than two phases. So real definition of multi-phase flow is it is an interacting flow of two or more phases where the interface between the phases is influenced by their motion. So interface is very, very important in order to define the multi-phase flow. If you do not have interface, it's a kind of mixing, it's a diffusion kind of thing that cannot be considered to be a multi-phase flow. Like if you add the salt in the water, it is dissolving. So due to the diffusion, I cannot say that it's a multi-phase flow. So as long as you should have an interacting flow, means the phases which are involved, they must be interacting with each other, and these interactions is with the interface between the phases. Now, in order to understand this real definition, I have come up with one simulations. You please understand these simulations very carefully. So here, what have you observed? We have observed that there are two fluids. One is heavy fluid, second is lighter fluid. Now, when you disturb this interface between these two fluids, what would happen? You can see there is a growth in the form of bubbles and some mushrooms-like structures like spikes. This growth will be continue over the period of time, and finally you would get some kind of mixings. So what is this? This is known as Rayleigh-Taylor instability or RT instability. Now, what is Rayleigh-Taylor instability? So the Rayleigh-Taylor instability or RT instability, this is the instability of an interface. So interface is very, very important so far as concerned to multi-phase flow. And this interface is unstable, and hence we would get some different patterns. Otherwise, we would not have any kind of patterns what we have been observing, like bubbly flow, slug flow, etc. So there is a definite instability of interface between the two fluids of different densities or different chemical composition, in which one fluid is pushing the other fluid. Now, where do you encounter this instability? So, the first example is the behavior of water suspended above oil in the gravity of earth. So, when you add on the honey into the water, so the interactions between these two fluids will be considered to be a multi-phase flow. But if you will track the interface, this is the instability of the interface through which we can get the different patterns into it. Then mushroom clouds, like those from volcanic eruptions and atmospheric nuclear explosions. This is what nuclear explosions we have, where you would find mushroom-like of clouds. This is a Rayleigh-Taylor instability. Then supernova explosions. So what happens in supernova explosions? The expanding core gas is accelerated into a denser cell gas. So it is a gas-to-gas interactions from heavy fluid to lighter fluid. Then instability in plasma fusion reactors and inertial confinement fusions. These are the applications of Rayleigh-Taylor instability, which will actually generate the flow patterns. And wherever we are studying the multi-phase flow, the flow patterns are very, very important, because these patterns are actually govern the entire mechanism of heat transfer and mass transfer in the multi-phase flow systems. Let us understand more about this Rayleigh-Taylor instability. So this is the evolution of Rayleigh-Taylor instability. Initially, you would have a straight line. So this straight line is basically considered to be a stable interface between these two fluids. The above fluid is the heavy fluid, lower fluid is the lighter fluid. That can be seen it over here. So here we have heavy fluid, here we have lighter fluid. Now, if the stable interface, if you disturb it, it will start with some wavelength. So there is a small wavelength perturbations at the stable interface. What happens based on this? So this grows into ubiquitous mushroom shaped spikes. You will find here the spikes, like these are the spikes. So this is heavy fluid which penetrated actually into the lighter fluid. But when this heavy fluid penetrates into the lighter fluid, it creates a mushroom-like structures. But what would happen eventually with this penetration? This fluid will push upwards and trying to create a bubble. So you will find the bubble in the heavy fluid side. So when you disturb the interface with some perturbation, you will find the mushroom kind of spikes in the lighter fluid by the heavy fluid and bubbles in the heavy fluid by the lighter fluid. And this goes on increasing over the period of time after getting the merging and collisions between the bubbles and spikes, and finally you would have a mixing kind of structure. So this is what we can call it as a multi-phase flow. Here the instability is entirely governed with the interface. So without the interface mechanism, you cannot say that this is a multi-phase flow. Let us understand the characteristics of phases in multi-phase flow. As we discussed, that multi-phase flow has the three phases like solid, liquid and gases. So how these different phases appears in other fluids or other solids or other states of the metals. So first is the solid. The solid phase appears in the form of lumps or particles in which which are carried along the flow. So you might have come across about the nanofluid. What is nanofluid? Nanofluid is a mixture of nanoparticles, that may be oxide particles, that may be a kind of metal particles which are suspended into the liquid. So liquid has nanoparticles, and because of some kind of surface tension effects and pH measurement, you can sustain these particles and in the suspended form for a longer period of time. So nanofluid is one of the examples of multi-phase flow where there is an interactions of liquid and solid. In this, the solid phase appears as particles. If you will see here the liquid nitrogen turning into solid, so it's a lumps. So liquid nitrogen is in the form of lumps when it is interacting with the air under the low temperature situation. Now, the movement of this particle is basically characterized by the size of these particles and the motion associated with the fluid. So if the size of the particles is too low, I would say that the particles will move along the flow. But if the size of the particles is larger enough, then they will not flow, but they will try to settle at the bottom of the surface. So depending upon the size of the particles, there may be interactions between the liquid and solid and fluid and the solids. The second important state of the matter is liquid. Now liquid can be continuous phase. So continuous phase is the primary phase in the multi-phase flow. So liquid can be continuous phase wherein solids appears as particles, just like we discussed the nanofluids. Then gases in the form of bubbles, like bubbly flow. If you inject the bubble air into the water, there's a bubble. So this bubble is a gas bubble, and this is a second phase. And this, according to buoyancy effect, this will try to move up. But remember this thing: you are injecting the air or gas in the liquid, and hence liquid is a primary phase, while the other phase is secondary phase is solid in the form of particles, gases in the form of bubbles, or liquid in the form of droplets. You may have a liquid-liquid multi-phase flow wherein one liquid is in the form of drops. So drop is considered to be a kind of secondary phase, while the major chunk of the fluid is known as a primary phase. When liquid phase, this is very important so far as concerned to multi-phase flow. So when liquid phase is in contact with solid phase, Let us give the example of channel wall. And adjacent to another face which is in contact with the wall. So I'm talking about there's a droplet which is falling on the surface. So droplet is a kind of liquid which is in contact with the solid and it is surrounded by the air. So here we are talking about the air, liquid droplet and the solid. So here there will be a triple interface. Triple interface means what? There may be a contact between the solid, liquid and gas. So this is a triple interface, and the angle subtended by its interface by the liquid gas and liquid solid interface is known as contact angle. So when we are working with the microscale channels, then contact angle is very important. That is not so important when we are going with the macroscale analysis. But so far as concerned to microscale analysis, contact angle is very important, and actually it defines the kind of mass transfer and heat transfer mechanism. So this is liquid, this is vapor, and this is solid. This is a triple interface wherein you have liquid and solid interface, liquid and gas interface, gas and solid interface. So this is a kind of interface, and when you subtend the angle from liquid solid to the liquid vapor line, this is going to be a kind of contact angle. Now according to the value of contact angle, the surfaces are being defined as super hydrophilic surface, hydrophobic surface, and super hydrophobic surface. Now what is meant by super hydrophilic surface? So if this contact angle is less than 5 degrees, it means that entire surface is getting wetted. So there will not be a kind of spherical bubble like this, but entire surface is getting wetted. Considering the contact angle of 5 degrees, then this surface is known as super hydrophilic surface. Hydrophilic surface will let you know that water has great affinity to be in contact with the solid. So it will be lying on, it will be trying to lying on the surface of the solid. It has no phobia of the solid surface. It is trying to lie. It's a kind of good friend of liquid and solid. If the angle is less than 90 degree and more than 5 degree, the surface is known as hydrophilic. So you will see that hydrophilic surface is having the contact angle less than 90 degree. When the contact angle is greater than 90 degree and less than 150 degree, this is known as hydrophobic. Phobic means what? The liquid is trying to get the phobia of the solid surface, and it is trying to minimize the surface energy and trying to become an envelope kind of shape. So it is trying to become a kind of droplets over the surface. And when the contact angle is greater than 150 degree to 180 degree, then you will find that this line contact between the liquid and solid is getting slowly converted into point contact. And here you will find a point contact. It means that this liquid is a kind of strong enemy of the solid surface, but this may be the curse and this may be the blessings depending upon the systems in terms of heat transfer mechanism and mass transfer mechanism. And that's why the researchers are doing the experiments just by coating the surfaces in order to achieve the hydrophilic surface, hydrophobic surface, super hydrophilic surface, and super hydrophobic surface. These are the efforts to be done in order to enhance the heat and mass transfer mechanism in the fluid flow and heat transfer involved in engineering and scientific applications. Remember the one thing, that this is for the open surface where it is a stationary system. But if you confine the system between the two walls, then the shape is getting confined, and you would find that this is a fluid which has got its interface between, this is fluid number 1, this is fluid number 2. So here you would find here this is fluid number 1, this is fluid number 2, and this interface is trying to cover this face. So if you draw the angle here, this angle is theta, which will give you the hydrophilic surface for which theta is equal to 90 degree. But when you have a hydrophobic surface, this is fluid 1, this is fluid 2. If you draw the angle from solid liquid to here, this is greater than 90 degree and the bubble is in this shape. So this is a kind of convex shape, and this is a concave shape. So this is a kind of concave shape and this is a kind of convex shape, and it is moving in this direction. But remember one thing again, this is known as static contact angle. It means that this is stationary with this wall having the contact angle greater than 90 degree or less than 90 degree. But what would happen if this is moving in the either direction? So when it is moving in the either direction, then you will find the system like this. So initially you have a droplet like this which has got certain contact angle, and it is known as static contact angle. But when you incline the surface, it starts moving in this direction. So when it starts moving in this direction, the shape of the droplet is getting changed. You can see. So in this shape, in both the sides, in static condition, the contact angle was same, but now here there will be two contact angle. One is advancing contact angle and second is receding contact angle, and the difference between these two contact angle is known as contact angle hysteresis. And this is very, very important in order to model the fluid flow and heat transfer when certain fluids are flowing through the confined channel. So this is advancing angle, this is receding angle, and this is known as dynamic contact angle. So when there is interactions between the liquid, gas and solid surface, maybe within the confined area or within the open area, there will be a two kind of contact angle mechanism. One is the static contact angle, second is the dynamic contact angle, and according to the movement and speed of the bubble, your advancing and receding angle is getting changed, and the contact angle hysteresis will determine the rate of heat transfer and the rate of mass transfer along with the bubble movement in the confined spaces. So this is all about the liquid phase under the multi-phase flow system. Now understand the third phase, that is the gaseous phase. So gaseous phase is also a kind of fluid. So a gas has a same properties as the liquid in its response of forces. So because they are in the same category of fluids, however, it has the important additional property, the compressibility. So compressibility is very, very important so far as concerned to handle the gas and liquid. And we will be understanding in some subsequent slides that why there is very important two-phase flow, considering the gaseous phase as one of the phases for the particular applications. Now, moving ahead, the types of multi-phase flow. So the first multi-phase flow is the two-phase flow. So in two-phase flow, the first is gas-liquid flow, gas-solid flow, liquid-solid flow, and liquid-liquid flow. Then three-phase flow, so gas, liquid, solid flows. So two-phase fluidized base and gas-lift chemical reactors involve this gas, liquid, solid three-phase flow. Then gas, liquid, liquid flows. So mixtures of vapors and two immiscible liquids. This is very important that when you use liquid along with the gas, these two liquid must be immiscible in nature. If these two are miscible in nature, then there is no, it's a uniform homogeneous flow. So as concerned to multi-phase flow, there must be a heterogeneous flow. So these liquid chemical properties should be different, though the states may be same. So one vapor and two immiscible liquids, and the examples are gas, oil, water flows in oil recovery systems, immiscible condensate vapor flows in steam hydrocarbon condensing systems. Then solid liquid flows. So this is the another type of multi-phase flow where you have liquid involved with the solid. So that may be a kind of slurries being involved. Granule flow is a kind of solid liquid flow where you have two fluids and one solid particles in the form of granules. Then we have the four-phase flow systems, wherein you would have the direct contact freeze crystallization is the kind of examples of the four-phase flow systems. This is the summary where you would find the multi-phase flow. So if you consider the interactions between the solid and liquid, you will find this is the applications. So all the slurries, then food processing industries, emulsification, these are the processes involve the solid and liquid as the flow, two-phase flow. Then we have the another two-phase flow, which is gas liquid two-phase flow, wherein condensation, boiling, spray cooling, dryers, refrigeration, biological flows. These are the processes being involved in the engineering and scientific applications, and considering gas is one phase and liquid is another phase. Then gas and solid, so fluidization, pneumatic transport, coal burners, cyclone separators, biological flows, all these flows are considered to be a gas solid flows. So this is a kind of two-phase flow systems wherein you would have either solid to liquid, liquid to gas, or gas to solid. In addition to this, in oil exploration system, there is an offshore oil exploration system. Four phases are involved. One is oil, second is air, third is water, and fourth is solid. So here, oil and water both have different chemical composition, though they are liquid in state. Air is gas and solid is solid in states. Then liquid interactions, wherein you would have the petroleum extractions. So here the state is same, but the compositions are different and they are immiscible in nature. So after getting the types of multi-phase flow, we need to understand, is there any real applications wherein the multi-phase flow exists? So let us discuss over this issue. So where do you encounter multi-phase flow? So these are the engineering and scientific applications where you can find out the applications of multi-phase flow. So in the power system like boiling water reactor, PWR, then liquid metal fast breeder, nuclear reactor, conventional power plants with boilers and evaporators, then propellant rockets, etc. These are the applications of the power system where you can generate the power. So in this generation of power, you would have certain systems where the multi-phase flow is involved. Second is the heat transfer applications. So we do have some system in which we are trying to achieve the cooling mechanism, we are trying to achieve the heating mechanism. So heat exchangers, evaporators, condensers, spray cooling towers, dryers, refrigerators, electronic cooling systems, direct contact heat exchanger. So these are the heat transfer augmentation systems or cooling systems wherein you cannot ignore the presence of the multi-phase flow for the engineering applications. Then third real life application is in the process systems. So extraction and distillation units are the examples of multi-phase flow. Then fluidized bed, chemical reactor, desalination systems, emulsifier, atomizer, scrubber, absorber, stirred reactors, homogenizers, all these are being used extensively in the chemical industries, wherein they are using certain sort of processes after getting some chemical reactions, and the presence of multi-phase flow cannot be ignored in this system. Then in transport system, so you are going to transport. So airlift pump is one of the transport mechanism, then pipeline transport of oil and gas mixtures. So we do have some pipeline systems wherein you would exporting these oil and gas mixtures. So there is a kind of oil and gas mixtures. It's a multi-phase flow which is being transported through the pipeline, long pipeline. Then pipeline transport of slurries, pneumatic conveyors, etc. So these are the applications involved in the transport systems where there is a definite presence of the multi-phase flow. Then in the engines, two-phase flow lubrications, bearing cooling by cryogenics. So this is very important applications where you find out the two-phase flow applications in the lubrication systems. Then in information systems, so superfluidity of liquid helium conducting charged liquid film. Then the largest single use of liquid helium is to cool the superconducting magnets in the modern MRI scanner. You would see here, this is the MRI machine where you would have the thousands of MRI images, magnetic resonance images. But in order to have these magnetic resonance images, they are making use of some low temperature superconducting magnets. Now, superconducting magnets means what? So, superconducting magnets means what? There is the absence of electricity and heat transfer is to be zero. So, if anything is to be worked as a superconductor, the temperature gradient must be zero. So, in order to achieve this zero temperature gradient in the magnets are being cooled by the liquid helium. So, this is one of the modern technology where you get the presence of multi-phase flow. Then we are working on one of the issues of this low temperature superconducting magnet is getting replaced with the high temperature superconducting magnets where they are being changed with the flexible links, and conduction is a mode of heat transfer. We are trying to replace this conduction mode of heat transfer between the hot end and cold end by just providing the pulsating heat pipe. So this is our area of research in which we are working, where we are introducing the two-phase flow because it has got tremendous heat transfer capacity, and you will be sustaining the characteristic of high temperature or low temperature superconducting magnets in order to get the proper MRI images. Then air conditioner, refrigerator, cooler, dust collector, sewage treatment plant, air pollution control. These are the applications which majorly deal with the environmental control systems. And yeah, of course, we do have the presence of multi-phase flow in these systems as well. Then ocean waves transport by wind and the motion of rain droplets. This is entirely a kind of interactions between the air and liquid. So this is a kind of multi-phase flow. So if you want to develop the ocean converter device, you require to understand the multi-phase flow in thoroughly. So there would be a kind of interactions of this wave on this air, and the vortice is having some strength. You try to convert the energy of these vortices into useful mechanical mechanisms. So in order to develop the design or to modify the system, you should have a definite knowledge of multi-phase flow. Then of course in biological systems, in nasal cavity or in bronchus flows or in cardiovascular system, we cannot ignore the presence of multi-phase flow. So in our body, everything is under the multi-phase flow systems where you often have the interactions of solid particles, gas and liquid. So there must be a diffusion, osmosis process, endothermic, exothermic reactions, everything. This combines the multi-phase flow systems, and hence the biological system is very complex to analyze because it involves the life. And wherever you involve the life, it is very difficult. So, and research are going on in the multi-phase flow mechanism under the biological systems. We are working on some cardiovascular systems wherein when stroke is there or when attack is there, then what mechanism is going to be held. So we are working on these issues. Now, having understood the application of multi-phase flow, then we will discuss, do we really require to study the multi-phase flow? So the answer is this. Why to study the multi-phase flow? So the first answer is need for the optimum design. So if you do not understand the multi-phase flow thoroughly, you would probably get the design which is not adequate for the particular applications. So in order to optimize the design, you need to know what is the multi-phase flow and what is the role of multi-phase flow for a system. Then prediction of operational limits or to diagnose the faults in less fortunate situation. So this is very important thing, that in large scale industries, people are always doing the work on the computers. So the system is far away from the control room, and with the proper data analysis, one can come to know that there may be some kind of faults or some kind of abnormal operational limits, and based on that he can immediately understand that what is happening over there, and it has to be properly controlled. If you do not have the multi-phase flow understanding, then you will never be in a position to know why these operational limits have been crossed or why these faults have been diagnosed and what to do with these faults once it has been diagnosed. Then of course the safety of plant operation. So what way the multi-phase flow is helpful to us? So in plant operation, if any abnormality is done, if any malfunctioning is done, it has to be in the form of some digital data. And once you understand this digital data, then you will quickly come to understand that this is the region in which my pipe is getting burst, or something is going to happen in a very larger scale. So immediately you can stop the system and you can reactivate the system after getting the proper modifications. So of course, the multi-phase flow understanding is very much essential to design the system, to optimize the system, to diagnose the faults in the existing systems, and for the betterment and safety of the systems, engineering and scientific systems. Now, so if multi-phase flow is so important, then what are the parameters which are really the key parameters which will govern the entire flow mechanisms? So there are some design parameters which are required to be taken care of when you are designing the multi-phase flow system. So very first parameter is the pressure drop. Now, when you analyze the system wherein there is a flow through a tube, you find out the pressure and define that this is my rating of the pump. But if that same pipe is working with the multi-phase flow, it means that there may be some trapped air or there may be some another liquid being involved into it. So the pressure drop which you have obtained with the single phase constraint, and based on that you have optimized your size of the pump, that may not be adequate to pump the system where multi-phase flow is involved. So pressure drop is very important, and that will let you know that what should be the pressure drop when multi-phase system or multi-phase flow occurs in engineering systems. Second is the heat transfer coefficient. So heat transfer coefficient for single phase flow and heat transfer coefficient for multi-phase flow, both are different. So in heat transfer coefficient in two-phase flow systems are very important in order to define the size of the heat exchanger in the system. Say for the example, you want to design the condenser or you want to design the evaporator. So you cannot design the evaporator by considering single vapor, or you cannot design the condenser by considering single liquid. It has to be designed systematically in order to track the conversion of one phase into another phase, and that will eventually decide what should be the length of evaporator, so that in the end you would have a vapor only, and what should be the length of the condenser, so that you would have the liquid only at the end of the condenser. So this is to be happening because there is a conversion of phase change and it involves the heat transfer, so that rejects the heat in the condenser and absorbs the heat in the evaporator. So when this heat is not properly understood, considering the single phase flow and two phase flow, the secondary fluid which you are circulating through the system, that may not be suffice to get this heat from the system and it may happen that if you do not have the proper dissipation of heat from the phase change mechanism, you will not get the proper phase change at the end of the condenser. So heat transfer coefficient for two-phase flow system is very important to design the system which involves the heat transfer and mass transfer mechanisms. So mass transfer coefficient, again in the same line, when fluid is being converted into vapor after getting the boiling, or when vapor is getting converted into, when vapor is getting condensed into liquid. So this is a kind of mass transfer. If you do not operate this mass transfer mechanism into it, you will never come to know that how much amount of mass is actually being transferred between the two states of the matter. So mass transfer coefficient, heat transfer coefficient, pressure drop. These are very important parameter for the designing of the multi-phase flow system. In addition to this, we have very important concept of mean phase content. Now, what is this mean phase content? The mean phase content is defined either based on volume or either based on cross-sectional area of a particular phase. Now, let us understand the system that you are working with a particular gas liquid flow systems. So in gas liquid flow system, how would you define the gas content and how would you define the liquid content? So here, if you have a system where you have gas and this liquid, what is the volume of liquid and what is the volume of gas? Then when you take the ratio of these two, you will get one term which is known as void fraction. So void fraction is what? The volume of gas divided by total volume. So this is known as void fraction. So it means that suppose you have a 100% multi-phase system in which 20% is the gas volume and 80% is the liquid volume. This gas volume may be in different phase or in different flow patterns under this 80% of liquid depending upon the velocity of the gas and the liquid. But in order to properly understand the phases in the multi-phase flow system for the designing of the system, you must understand the mean phase content of each phases in the multi-phase system. So far as concerned to gas liquid flow, the gas mean phase content is referred to as void fractions. So void fraction is what? Void fraction is the volume of gas in total volume of the system. Liquid phase is defined in the form of liquid holdup. So if you define here VL by Vg plus VL, so this is known as liquid holdup. So for gas it is void fraction, for liquid it is liquid holdup. At the same time, if you have a solid, so you would have a solid holdup. So two terms are very important. One is the void fraction and second is the holdup. So for liquid and solid it is holdup, while for gas it is void fraction. And this void fraction is very important because this is the fraction of amount of one phase in the multi-phase flow which will govern the entire systems. If you do not acquire the knowledge of these fractions of the one phase into multiple phase, you will never be in a position to track the interface between the two phases. So this is very important and it should have a dedicated equation to solve for the system. Then the next important parameter is the flux limitations. So yeah, of course, you might have come across about the critical heat flux. So critical heat flux is very, very important in the boiling. So whether you go with the flow boiling or whether you go with the pool boiling, the critical heat flux is very, very important, because this is the extreme limit of the system up to which it can work. Afterwards, if you go on increasing the heat flux, the system may be burst. So there may be a kind of burnout situation, or it's a kind of forced convection and burnout in pool in the pool boiling. So burnout means what? The heater gets damaged and entire system gets damaged for that. So even in boiling situation, people are working up to the critical heat flux limit, and the moment they reach the critical heat flux means what? Complete vapor. So the entire water gets dry out. So when you have a dried out situation, you do not have anything to give the heat for that. And hence, since vapor is having low capacity of heat to be absorbed, and if you go on increasing the heat afterwards, after getting the dry out situation, you will come to know that the system gets damaged. So your experiments at boiling will limit up to the critical heat flux. So apart from pressure drop, heat transfer coefficient, mass transfer coefficient, and mean phase content in the form of void fraction or hold up, flux limitation, that is in the form of critical heat flux, is very, very important parameter to design and modify the existing multi-phase flow systems. So having understood the multi-phase flow, its applications and its understanding, can we say that multi-phase flow can be designed using simple fluid mechanics systems? Or in other words, in what way the modeling of multi-phase flow differs from the basic fluid mechanics? So let us get the understanding of these things. This is a recapitulation of single-phase hydrodynamics, wherein I have written pressure drop equations. There is a pressure gradient in this z direction. So pressure gradient is written in the form of this: tau W ds by dA, where S is the interfacial area, capital A is the cross-sectional area, tau W is the shear stress, rho g sine theta in order to accommodate the gravity force, and d by dz of gu, where g is the mass flux. This is a single phase flow. Now suppose you want to write down the same equation for multi-phase flow, what is the corresponding change? So in order to write down the same system for two-phase flow, so this will remain same, but instead of having tau W, you have now tau W1 and tau W2. So shear stress of phase 1, shear stress of phase 2, along with the interfacial area of phase 1, interfacial area of phase 2. Then rho is replaced to rho m. Is a mixture velocity, a mixture density, and mixture density cannot be written as 1 by specific volume of mixture. This is wrong. So this is very important to convert rho to rho m. Then here G is again can be converted for this first phase and second phase. So if you have a two-phase system, let us say this is phase 1 and phase 2, the single phase equation of this and single phase equation of this, if you combine, you will be getting the entire equations. So now what is the difficulty? So difficulty lies in the understanding that there is no obvious relationship between the wall shear stress in single and two phase flow. So even if you are solving the single phase flow problem, wall shear stress is not so clear. It is based on some assumptions. And that too, if you want to write down for two-phase flow, it is much more complex. Second is what? The information is required for the interfacial shear stress. In the absence of understanding of shear stress for the single phase, you require now the understanding of both the phases shear stresses. That is in the form of S1 and S2. Third is what? The estimation of void fraction necessary. It means that suppose the two-phase flow is passing from here to here. Let us have, you are heating up under the saturated condition. So let us say this is 100 degrees centigrade and you are supplying the heat at this stage. Now this is liquid, 1 atmospheric condition. So what would happen the moment you give the heat to this, it tries to convert into vapor. But as it moves from here to here, so if you divide these into sections, x equal to x1, x equal to x2, x equal to x3. So the vapor content at this x1 is not same the vapor content at this section or at this section. There is a continuous change of void fraction right from entry to exit. Similar way, if you are working with the condenser, then here this vapor is converted into liquid. So I would say that when is the condensation, then liquid hold up is getting changed from entry to exit. So in a nutshell, I would say that it is very, very difficult to estimate the void fraction or liquid hold up at each and every sections. And that is why it is very, very difficult. So these are the limitations through which we cannot directly apply the fluid mechanics concept to the multi-phase flow or two-phase flow systems. Now, in addition to this, the distribution of the two phases cannot be manipulated by the control of input parameters. This is very important. As I discussed here, that you are giving the liquid at the entry, but as it goes inside and heat is given, you do not have any control of this phase change. You cannot at all control the mechanism of phase change from entry to exit once it enters into the system. So this is very important concept, that the distribution of two phases cannot be manipulated by the control of input parameters. It means that if you have 20% here and 80% vapor here, just by controlling these things, you cannot say that you will get 30% here or you will get 10% here. You at all do not have any control once the two-phase flow starts inside the system. Then there must be a slip between the phases. Yeah, this is very important concept, that I would let you know about this part. Yeah. If you will observe here that there is a flow of fluid along with the particles, the solid particles. Now, if you carefully observe the movement of particles along with the movement of fluid, both are not same. So particles, solid particles are moving at different velocities as compared to the particles of surrounding fluids. So there must be a velocity difference between these two phases, and this gives the slip mechanism between these two. And slip is very, very important so far as concerned to understanding of two-phase flow completely for our system. So difficulties are, you do not have any control over the multi-phase flow once it gets started its motion inside the confined passage or over the surface. And second thing is, you cannot have the dedicated model through which you can consider the slip between the phases. So implies different in situ and inlet compositions, then varies with the phase physical properties, their flow rates and interfacial distribution. This is what I can call it as an interfacial distribution. So you can see here there are some different interfacial distributions. I would say that the first is known as bubbly flow, second is known as slug flow, third is known as churn flow. I would say that this is churn flow. This is a kind of annular flow, and this is a kind of chaotic flow. So now, if you will see here, the gas liquid flow is defined in terms of different white fractions of the gas in the liquid in this way. So as you move from figure 1 to last figure, as you move from figure 1 to last figure, the white fraction is increasing. But at the same time, the liquid holdup is getting decreased. This is self. You cannot control this interface development and mechanisms by just altering the values at the inlet. And that's why this is very, very difficult to model this multi-phase flow as compared to single phase flow. Some more lights over the single phase flow and two phase flow. So you can define the single phase flow based on Reynolds number as laminar flow and turbulent flow. So laminar flow means what? The layers of the same fluid are moving without crossing each other. So there may be a parallel lamina over the others of the fluid layers. In turbulent flow, these layers are getting churned into it, but the entire mechanism is under the single phase flow system. So single phase flow can be defined as laminar flow or turbulent flow, but this may not be true when you want to define for two phase flow. So two phase flow has variety of distribution of the phases, just like what we discussed. These are the variety of distribution of phases. I cannot say there is a turbulent flow or laminar flow. It has got two phases, and hence it may happen that one phase is laminar and second phase is turbulent. So there may be a combinations of the laminar flow of one phase and turbulent flow of another phase. So here it is very, very difficult to characterize two-phase flow in terms of laminar flow and turbulent flow. Depending upon the different phases being involved in the system, you cannot very easily say that this is a type of flow. So now again, when you analyze the two-phase flow, it depends on certain geometrical and operational parameters. So what are the geometrical parameters? So size and shape of the system and the orientation in the form of vertical, horizontal and inclined. Vertical, horizontal and inclined, you would have the variety of distribution. It means that if you change the size and shape for the same inlet condition, the distribution is changed. Distribution means what? This is a distribution. So here, if you are observing this mechanism with the specified flow rate of liquid and gas in 2 mm channel, if you change the size of 5 mm, this may not be the picture for that. Or if you change the shape, this may not be picture for them. So for same input parameter, if you change the size and shape of the system, there may be a different distribution of the system. For the same parameter, same size and same shape, if you change the orientation of the system, so it means that this is vertical, but if it is kept horizontal, this may not be the distribution. The distribution may be something like this or something like this. So when you orient this pipe at an angle from horizontal to vertical and inclined, or when you change the size and shape of the system, the flow patterns which you are observing for a predefined set of gas and liquid may not be same for the two-phase flow system. Second is what? flow direction in vertical or inclined flows up and down. See, it is very much possible that if you, for this vertical pipe, if you apply the flow from bottom to top of single phase flow or from top to bottom for single phase flow, you would say that my mass load would remain same. But if you apply the two-phase flow of the same quantity from the bottom, you would get some different patterns. And from bottom to top, you would get some different patterns. So this may be the bubbly flow when it is moving from bottom to top. But this may not be a bubbly flow when it is moving from top to bottom. Here, it becomes a kind of annular flow like this. So this is the flow when two-phase flow is moving upward. But when the same amount of two-phase flow is moving downward, this may not be a kind of flow pattern. This may be a kind of flow pattern. So it means that two-phase flow is very difficult to characterize because of the distribution of the phases in the system. And it is changing, and it changes with the flow geometry orientation and the direction of flow from bottom to top and top to bottom. Moreover, phase flow rates and properties like density, viscosity, interfacial tension, wettability, these two have the effects. Like this may be a kind of water and gas, but if you change water to some other viscous liquid or some volatile liquid, this may not be the pattern. So the moment you change the fluid, it means that you are changing the chemical composition of the fluid, and since the thermophysical properties are altogether changed, even though you are working with the two states like gas and liquid, but liquid is changed, if gas is changed in terms of composition, for the same geometry, same size, same orientation, same flow direction, you will never get the same kind of flow patterns of the two-phase flow. And hence, it is very, very difficult to model this two-phase flow as compared to single-phase flow. This is the hydrodynamic manifolds which makes the more complex, and this is the list I have listed down why the two-phase flow is more complex as compared to single-phase flow. This is as per our discussion, that existence of multiple, deformable and moving interface, multi-scale physics of the flow phenomena, significant discontinuities of fluid properties and complicated flow field near the interface. The answer is this. See, you can see discontinuity. This is continuous, but this is discontinuous. This is discontinuous. So this interface is getting discontinuous over here. Even in between these two is discontinuous. So discontinuity is very, very important. So significant discontinuities of the fluid properties and complicated flow field near the interface, compressibility of the gas phase in the gas-liquid phase, and different wall interactions for the different fluids like hydrophilic surface, hydrophobic surface, superhydrophilic surface, hydrophobic surface. This may alter the entire distribution of phases in a system, and hence it is very, very difficult to model the multi-phase flow as compared to single-phase flow system. Now, what are the challenges? Since out of these gas, liquid, liquid-liquid, liquid-solid, and gas-solid system, gas-liquid flow is very, very complex in nature. What is the reason behind that? So, the challenges of modeling gas-liquid flow. So, what is first challenge? Phase interface separating the liquid from the gas is extremely thin. You can see it over here. This is a very thin interface. And here also very thin interface. So phase interface separating the liquid from the gas is extremely thin. So discontinue. It may discontinue the moment we get the external effects into it. Second thing is very important, the density ratio. So density ratio of air to water is 816 add to magma is 4,000 and add to liquid still is 10,000. So density change across the phase interface is very, very large, and it is very difficult. Okay, you can see it from here. This is the discontinuity, which is also known as topology changes. Here you would have a injection of one phase into another phase. After getting certain distance, it try to become unstable, and getting the unstable, it try to convert into different topologies, and it becomes discontinue from the entire system. And here, if one of the phase is air and one of the phase is liquid, then the density ratio is in the range of 1 by 1000. This is very, very difficult to handle. There may be a phase transition. So vast range of time and land scales are common. In order to capture properly these things, you require very minute time, and land scale should also be very minute in order to properly define these systems. The very important example of gas liquid flow is atomization of liquid jet in a turbulent environment, or atomization of fuel in the combustion devices, where suppose you want to design a multi-point fuel injection system. So in that system, fuel is getting injected in the form of spray. So you are actually atomizing the liquid in the form of finer droplets, so that it surrounds quite well with the surrounding air. By that way, you are increasing the surface area and you will get more heat transfer. But if you want to theoretically, experimentally, it is possible by changing the parameters. But theoretically, if you want to really develop the theory for that, dedicated mathematical analytical tool for that, it is very, very difficult to model it. And hence, out of all the two-phase flow, gas liquid two-phase flow is more complex. In addition to this, I would like to discuss more over the forces. So in single phase flow, you have inertia force, you have viscous force, and you have pressure force. These three forces are suffice to characterize the single phase flow. But when you convert the single phase flow into gas liquid two-phase flow, what would happen? So apart from these three forces, you would be having the additional means of forces. What are those forces? So interfacial force. Interfacial force means what? You have an interface. So in between these two, you have an interfacial force. So apart from inertia, viscous and pressure force of individual phases, you have one more interfacial force in addition to this. Then you have a wetting characteristics of the liquid on the wall, since it is passing through the system. So wetting characteristics of the system with this wall is very, very important. But this is for the micro scale systems or some kind of small scale system, not for the macro scale systems. Then the exchange of mass transfer, momentum transfer, and energy transfer between the gas and liquid phase. This is very important because there must be an exchange of heat transfer, mass transfer between the phases. So gas liquid two-phase flow is very difficult to model in the presence of these many forces and characteristics of the solid and different phases into it. This is what I can call the deformable interface. With different inputs, you will find deformable interface, which is known as flow pattern. So these are the different flow patterns observed based on the different input parameters of the two phases. Now here, this interface depends on what parameter. So as we discussed earlier, the nature of deformable interface depends on operating conditions. Like what should be the pressure, what is the temperature, what is the mass flux, what is the heat flux, what is the adiabatic and diabatic situations. So it's a types of situation wherein heat is involved and heat is not involved. Apart from this, you would have the mass flux, temperature, pressure. So these are the operating conditions which altogether change the deformable interface. It means that if you keep all the parameters same, and if there is a kind of one jerk in one of the parameters, the entire mechanism gets changed. It is also very difficult to achieve the repeatability of the same flow patterns with the same set of parameters. So this is the beauty of I would say that multi-phase flow, where it is very next to possible. I would say that it is next to impossible to get the repeatability of the system's characteristics in its required form. Then fluid properties including surface tension. So surface tension is very important, and it creates the additional force in the form of interfacial force. Then channel geometry, size and orientation, as we discussed, this deformable interface is entirely getting changed. In addition to this, we have some forces. This makes gas liquid two-phase flow system very complex, and hence to date we do not have any mathematical modeling or equation which truly represents the correct behavior of two-phase flow systems for any engineering applications. How do you model the two-phase flow? So I have listed down some of the modeling approaches through which you can model the two-phase flow. So what is the first approach? So in the first approach, the entire system is considered to be a homogeneous system. Now what exactly mean by homogeneous system? So in homogeneous system, no, you are knowing that there are two phases, but these two phases are equivalently converted into single phase. That is in terms of properties. So here you are converting the properties of individual phases into effective properties, and you are modeling the two-phase flow as single-phase flow and trying to get the understanding of the system. If you are trying to model the nanofluid through tube or nanofluid passing through a pipe, there are two approaches. One is homogeneous model approach and second is heterogeneous, or I would say separated flow model. So in homogeneous flow model, the properties are being evaluated based on the volume fractions of the different materials and the properties of the different materials, and you are converting the effective properties. So it means that in homogeneous model, what we are doing in homogeneous model, so in homogeneous model, say you are trying to find out the pressure drop of nanofluid passing through this tube. Now what is nanofluid? So nanofluid is a mixture of nanoparticles plus, I would say, water, or I would say fluid. This may be a pure fluid, this may be a binary fluid, this may be a kind of some other fluids like I would say that surface tension changing fluid like. So I would say that this may be a pure fluid or this may be a binary fluid. Now pure fluid means what? Instead of knowing the nanofluid, let us say you are modeling the water to be flown through this pipe. So it is very easy to get this delta P based on single phase equation. But if you want to find out the delta P for the same mass flow rate of nanofluid, then here with the presence of nanoparticles, it has got its own physical properties. So here the physical properties of nanoparticles and physical properties of water is getting tuned in the form of effective properties. So rho, Cp, mu are getting replaced with rho effective, Cp effective, mu effective, and in the solution of delta P, you are replacing this rho, Cp and mu of water with rho effective, Cp effective and mu effective, and find out what is the pressure drop of nanofluid. So this is the approach which we can call it as a homogeneous model, wherein you are observing that these nanoparticles are moving with the same velocity at which the water is flowing. So since there is no slip between the nanoparticles and water, you can consider that both the phases are moving at the same speed, and then you can treat it as an effective, you can treat the system as an effective property system, and then you model it in terms of single phase flow. Though nanofluid is a multi-phase flow, you will model it as a single phase flow just by changing the individual property in the form of effective properties and considering the system as single phase flow. So here both the phases are having the same velocity, there is no slip between these two, and you apply the different models available for the viscosity, density and Cp and find out the properties and get the solutions for a problem. But this is a very elemental approach to handle the two-phase flow for a particular system. The results are not so appreciating, and hence you need to define the other approach which will give you the realistic understanding of the two-phase flow system. So in order to strengthening the understanding of multi-phase flow modeling, the homogeneous flow model is being dropped out and people are moving with the separated flow model. Now what happens in the separated flow model? So in the separated flow model, it is assumed that both the phases, let us say this is phase 1, it is moving with V. This is phase 2, it is moving with U. I would say that V is greater than U. Here V is equal to U. Here is V is greater than U or U is greater than V. It means that there may be a difference between U minus V, which is known as slip. So if you are intending to get the analytical solution of the system, you incorporate the slip mechanisms in the form of some Brownian motions and everything and try to get the understanding of the system. So another approach to which you can model the two-phase flow is the separated flow model. Then third is multi-fluid model. So here the separate conservation equations are required to be written for each phase. So here, what are the conservation equation? So we have the conservation equation of mass, momentum and energy. So we have three momentum equation, one mass equation, that is continuity equation, three Navier-Stokes momentum equation and one energy equation. So here for multi-fluid system, so the two-phase flow system is considered as a multi-fluid system, and you are writing the mass, momentum and energy equations separately for individual phases and trying to solve those phases in order to get the proper understanding of this. Then another model technique is the drift flux model. Here the flow is described in terms of distribution parameters and averaged local velocity, that is the difference between the phases. So drift flux model, drift means very slow speed. Like if I drop the feather in air, the velocity of feather in air is known as drift velocity. So this is a drift flux model through which you can model the two-phase flows modeling. See, the detailed discussion is beyond the scope of this talk, and that's why I have limited my discussion over it. I am just giving you the overview of different modeling techniques available for the two-phase flow systems. Now, in addition to this, these all are, I would say, that theoretical approach. Now, but in today's era, this approach has become very popular, and this is known as computational fluid dynamic models. Your SCTP is already on the computational fluid dynamics, and you have come across about various techniques being handled in terms of finite difference method, finite volume method, finite element method, applied for various complex geometry, simple geometry with various techniques. Today I am going to discuss the computational fluid dynamic models for available for the multi-phase flow systems. So now, computational fluid dynamic models. So if you want to solve any multi-phase flow for a system, how would you solve using the CFD techniques? So as such, there are two approaches. The first approach is known as Euler-Euler approach. Second approach is known as Euler-Lagrange approach. Now, what is there in Euler-Euler approach? Let us consider that you are solving the gas-liquid two-phase flow through tube. This is my application. I want to solve this gas-liquid two-phase flow through tube using Euler-Euler approach. So what is there in Euler-Euler approach? So in Euler-Euler approach, what has been given that here you need to find out gas volume fraction and liquid volume fraction. But since the volume fraction name has been given to gas, I would say that liquid hold up. So say for the example, if alpha is gas volume fraction, then beta is 1 minus alpha, which is known as liquid hold up. So in Euler-Euler approach, the weightages are given to both the phases equally, gas and liquid both. So here the importance is given to void fraction mechanism, where you solve the void fraction equation. Now what is void fraction? So say for the example, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, this is phase 1. Now void fraction is equal to 1 for full cell. So I would say that when this cell, you must have understood that why this is grid, because in CFD we are unable to solve our problem without the grid. So grid is an essential part to be generated either by using finite difference method, finite volume method, or finite element method. So now let us consider that this is a finite volume method, where your volume is very important in that case. So for this volume, you put focus on it. Now this volume is completely covered up by the, let us say it is a gas. So for this volume, I would say that it is a full cell occupied by the gas. And hence, I would say that alpha is 1. So 1 minus 1, beta is 0. So I would say that alpha equal to 1, beta equal to 0 for all these situations where I would have this 1. Now, you consider this cell. So in this cell, there is no air. Let us say it is a liquid. So in that case, I would say beta equal to 1 and alpha equal to 0, and that is applicable to all these where you will find the 0. Now, these are the cells where you would have the volume fraction higher. So 0.9 means what? Alpha equal to 0.9 and beta equal to 0.1. The difference, the summation is 1. So in Euler approach, what is considered? In Euler approach, it is given due importance for the gas volume fraction and liquid holdup both. You cannot ignore. So in Euler approach, you have a dedicated volume fraction equation to be solved, along with 3 Navier-Stokes equations, 1 continuity equation and 1 energy equation. So now another volume fraction equation is very important to be solved for the Euler approach. So under the Euler approach, there are 3 methods. One is VOF methods, second is the Eulerian method, and third method is known as mixture method. Now what is VOF method? So VOF method is known as volume of fluid method. So in volume of fluid method, we are solving the volume fraction equation and trying to track this interface. This is the interface. So this interface is trying to be tracked as this flow progresses as per the time in the forward or backward direction. Now the tracking is very important. It should be sharp enough. But under the VOF method, there is a mushy zone between these two. So this may not be a sharp interface between the two. This may be a kind of mushy zone. What does it mean by mushy zone? So in mushy zone, there is sharp interface between the gas and liquid. So in mushy zone, this sharp interface is being diffused with this mushy zone. So this is the limitation of VOF method, where it is not able to capture the sharp interface, but it is having the mushy zone capturing. You can refine this, but you cannot find out the very sharp interface. So in order to overcome this difficulty, the another method has been evolved, that is known as level set method. So level set method is introduced to capture the sharp interface in order to avoid this kind of mushy zone. So these are the methods available under the Euler approach, and under the Euler-Lagrangian approach, this is known as discrete phase method. So Euler-Lagrange approach is basically known as discrete phase method, where unlike Euler approach, only primary phase has given due importance and secondary phase is getting discarded for the understanding. So the volume fraction, like see here, what we did, we have considered find out alpha and beta both. But here in Euler-Lagrange approach, let us consider that they only find out alpha, they don't bother about what is happening with beta. So they simply ignore the beta and solving the same problem using the alpha. So primary phase is given due importance and secondary phase is getting discarded. If it is the philosophy of this Euler-Euler method, this cannot be applied to each and every problem. So Euler-Lagrange approach is specific to problems like spray dryers, then coal and liquid fuel combustion, and particle laden flow. So if you are trying to model the spray dryers or fuel combustions of coal and liquid or particle laden flow, you can approach the Euler-Lagrange methods. Why? Other than these, like if you want to model the gas liquid flow, want to design some evaporator condensers, then you can go with the Euler approach, wherein you can adopt VOF model, you can adopt level set techniques, you can adopt Eulerian model. Depending upon slight characteristic changes, they may be used by one in other method. Nowadays, the people have developed the new method, which is the blending of VOF level set method. So there is a blending of both VOF level set method, which can be used extensively in order to properly track this interface and sharp interface between the two phases. These are some equations to be solved, wherein the first equation is known as general transport equation of multi-phase flow. This is the VOF continuity equation for each phase. This is continuity equations for the mixtures model. The general transport equation means what? Momentum equations. This is the continuity equation of each phase. This is the continuity equations to be used under the mixtures model. And this is the momentum equations to be used under the mixtures model. So continuity equation for mixture model, momentum equations for the model. You might have learned in depth under the CFD, because without the understanding of these equations, one cannot complete the course on computational fluid dynamics. So you might be having the idea of this del by del T of this means local convection. This is my convective acceleration, local accelerations. Then this is a kind of, I would say that it is a diffusion term. Then this is a term of pressure difference, forces and everything. Now, with this understanding, I would like to show some case studies wherein we solve these problems in our lab. And some of the this is taken from the Google in order to make you understand and get the develop the interest in the multi-phase flow modeling using CFD. So this is a kind of mixing problem where you are filling up this bottle just by opening the tap, and when it is been dropped from height, how the movement is getting captured, that is effectively captured using this multi-phase modeling under the CFD techniques. You can see these things. You can see here and here. This is a flow of liquid in air. This is another kind of multi-vortex test for the benchmarking of the developed code for the systems. This is S-shaped flow. These are some benchmark problems. Those who are interested to develop their own code under the two-phase flow. then they have to test their own code with some benchmark solutions. So this is the benchmark solutions where they are trying to see that there should not be any loss of mass and momentum. So loss of mass is very important in the two-phase flow. So there should not be any loss of mass. And they are testing with different benchmarking solutions. So this is one of the benchmark solutions for the testing of your code. Then I have just shown you at the beginning slides that this is the initial slide at 0 second. So this is a stable interface. Then after 2 seconds, 4 seconds, 6 seconds, and 8 seconds, how the uh, RT interface get changed. This can be done using CFD simulations. So it is very easy to get the simulations once you write down your own code, or you can solve the same problem using some commercial softwares like ANSYS Fluent, Star CCX, then COMSOL Multiphysics. So these are the softwares through which you can get the solutions of your problem. So those who are interested to write their own code, they can write down. And those who are trying to get the enough expertise and for further development, they can go with the ANSYS Fluent kind of software, CFX software. Or else, if you want to make use of some open source codes, so OpenFOAM, OPENFOAM. So OpenFOAM is an open source software where simply you plug in the already developed codes for your problem and solve the problem. So you need not to write each and everything. Simply you have to plug in for your system and then it will work. It is as good as in Fluent, we are clicking on a particular model so that this will be plugged in the fundamental or generalized model. But for that you have to pay. So license is very much required, but in open source kind of softwares, licenses are not required. You will simply download it, plug it, and get use of it. This is the dam break problem, which is VOF modeling with the experimental work. Yeah. This is how the dam is when you remove the partition, then how the flow will behave. So this is a standard benchmarking solutions for the VOF modeling. If you remove this partition from here, here you can see this interface. This interface is continuously changing with respect to time and space. So it needs to be properly captured, and this is required to be solve the volume fraction equations. So volume fraction equations are required to be solved in space and time, and by that way you can have a corresponding effects in the fundamental equations. Now this is the bubble rise problem. You can see the surface tension is 0.0728 Newton per meter. When you increase the surface tension to 728 Newton per meter, what would happen? See. This is to understand the surface tension effect. This is 0.0728, and when you increase to 1000 times, what would happen? So this is the water and air surface tension. When you increase 1000 times surface tension, what would happen? See. Now this is what we have discussed in terms of wetting characteristics of the droplets over the surfaces. Then the first video shows you the hydrophobic surface, and second video shows you the droplet spreading in terms of hydrophilic surface. The spreading. If you measure this contact angle here, it is greater than 90 degree. If you measure this contact angle here, it is less than 90 degree. So this is for the hydrophilic surface. This is for the hydrophobic surface. Now here, there is a T junction, and we would like to see that when air is flowing from here and water is flowing from here, how the volume fraction of one of the phases gets changed. So our intention is to find out the squeezing mechanism, breakup mechanism, blocking mechanisms, and the intrusion. So intrusion means what? You start solving the problem from here, that will go up to this section, and this is the main channel. This is the inlet of water, this is the inlet of gas, and this is the mixing zone. So according to the shape of the mixing zone, the entire bubble mechanism is changed. So here, how many number of bubbles are going to be generated, and what should be the shape and size of the bubble, that is to be determined based on these dimensions. So blocking would be what? That this will go until it reaches this surface and it will block. So you will please carefully observe this mechanism here. It is going downward. Now you can see it has got the penetration up to this, but it has not disturbed this main flow of the water. Now it start penetrating. So this is trying to block the main flow. Now it has completely blocked the main flow. So this flow will exert the pressure on this interface. Now when it exerts the pressure on the interface, this interface will move towards this corner. And this is the corner which is responsible for the breaking. Now this is completely going to be break here now. Now this is break. So now this bubble is getting broken from here and it will be moving in the further direction. If you will see that the contact angle is greater than 90 degree for this case, because it is a convex interface. Now, what is the effect of obstruction of the same flow that is being modeled and solved in the lab? As we know that when any fluid flows over the square obstacles, there will be a kind of vortices being generated at the back of this square box. So whether it is for the single phase flow, but if it is a two phase flow, what would happen? So we solved it here. You can see now the position is changed. So here you can see that the interface is broken. This is broken and again it is rejoined. It is trying to just by stepping down. this size is y equal to 0.1 near the center, then it is going towards the wall, downward. So what would happen, you can see it over here. At the center, it will be completely damaged. But here, the moment you change the position of this obstacle towards the wall, at 0.04 and at 0.02. This is what is the contour. Now, this is very important because we are working on one of the sponsor research project from the SERB DST India. One of my PhD student is working on this. So we have proposed this geometry of microchannel heat sinks, which is known as stacked mini channel heat sink. We got the patent of this design for our stacked mini channel heat sinks, and we are at the end of the completion of this project. Now the work was proposed for the single phase flow, but now what would happen if there is a multi-phase flow and it has got the obstruction in a stream wise. So previously the obstruction was considered not in a stream wise, but it is a kind of obstruction. But here, if channel is there, then what would happen with this skin? So if there is a long bubble moving from here, and if channel is there, so it means that suppose the long bubble is moving from here, and it has got two paths. So the effect of obstruction, longitudinal obstruction, is being studied. So you'll see that the entire bubble is getting converted into two bubbles, small bubbles. The length would be same, but the moment it changes into two bubbles, this surface is basically in contact with the liquid, and hence you will get the better heat transfer as compared to single bubble mechanism. So this is our ongoing work in the lab, that we are trying to evolve how better way you can increase the heat transfer just by changing this length. This problem is for the liquid nitrogen based cryogenic pulsating heat pipe. So my another PhD student is working on the cryogenic pulsating heat pipe, where we are going to develop the experimental setup and completed the numerical simulations using the VOF technique and liquid nitrogen. So at the time of starting the discussion over the CFD simulations for the liquid nitrogen in the pulsating heat pipe, we did not have the idea about the effect of size in the liquid nitrogen flow. So we started our simulations with the 3 mm diameter of tube, and we observed that something is very vague, and we are not actually able to convert this effective heat transfer. So we changed it to another diameter over here, and we found the appreciable and appreciating performance of the pulsating heat pipe. So just by changing the size from 3 mm to 1 mm, we obtain a very remarkable results for our case. These papers have two papers have been written based on that, and one is under review and second is it is already published. So this is the void fraction of liquid nitrogen in pulsating heat pipe. You will see. This is the generation of bubbles. It's a nucleation sites where boiling, the lower part is evaporator, upper part is condenser, and intermediate part is the adiabatic. There is no heat loss between these two parts. So when heat is supplied to this bottom part, the nucleation sites will generate the nucleus bubbles. So bubbles are getting generated, and since it is a bubble, the tendency of bubble is to move upward. So it is going upward. Now when it moves upward, it experiences the lower temperature. So where this bubble collapses and trying to condense over the surface. So there will be a film-wise condensation over the surface. But what is the effect of diameter during this phenomena? That is very interesting. So you could see here that this goes up. Now, if you will see, it is not trying to move up much. But the moment, if you will observe the phenomena here, in this case, see, this is slipping of these droplets. So this slipping means gravity prevails. You could see here, see, this is the slipping here also. Yeah. So this is slipping. Slipping means what? Gravity attracts the liquid towards the downward. And since it is falling, we do not have the falling mechanism in the condenser. And if it is a falling case, this is not going to transfer the heat effectively. So it was our first simulations with the larger diameter where we did not get the proper pulsation, circulations and effective heat transfer between the evaporator and the condenser. So what in the next phase of experiment, we change the diameter from 3 mm to 1 mm and the results are quite interesting. If you will see the results, all the bubbles and liquid slurs are actually traveling by attaching and confining the channel, and this makes possible to get the circulations. Circulations is what? It pick up the heat from the bottom and reject the heat from the top. So when the circulation happens, there is a appreciable transfer of heat between the evaporator and condenser. So this works quite nice in terms of liquid nitrogen being handled with the pulsating heat pipe. The rate of heat transfer is quite high in this case as compared to this, because this is a kind of surface tension dominated regime, while this is a gravity dominated regime, which prevents the circulations of this system, two-phase flow systems, throughout the pulsating heat pipe. While surface tension is prevailing, which makes it possible to move these slugs or gas holdup and liquid slug in a circulation pattern. Again, one cannot say that it is a counterclockwise or clockwise direction, but that may be the counterclockwise or clockwise direction depending upon the type of heat being used in that situation. So this is very interesting, and we are going to develop, we have already developed some of the experimental work, and we are going to soon publish those work in the reputed journals as well. So this is all about how you can tackle the multi-phase flow using the CFD. We did this simulation using ANSYS Fluent, where we have used this VOF as one of the multi-phase tracking model and solve the Navier-Stokes equations, and incorporating the turbulence of K epsilon modeling, we solved this problem and got the good results, and based on that we are trying to predict some more things over there. Apart from this, we did some gravitational effects in the space. So under the anti-gravity condition, we did some simulations, and the results were found quite catchy, and it is published in one of the reputed journals. So this is all about the multi-phase flow, and thank you very much for your same behavior throughout my lecture. So